I'm back. I'm back. First and foremost, all praise is due to the Most High. All the glory goes to Him. Everything that I am able to accomplish and get through is all thanks to Him. Let me I forgot to turn on the microphone, and it's on now. But all praise is due to the Most High. His glory is what got me here today. Is what I am blessed to be here today. And you know what I realized? That on my journey, I have these days where everything seems to be going so perfectly, everything seems to be aligning so well. Then I have days like today where the first half of my day was pretty good until I realized one of the bathrooms in my home, the pipes burst. So that's it broke me a little bit. But then I realized that it's just part of life. It's just part of life, and we get through the things that are put on our plate. We go through them, and life is exactly 10% of what happens to you and 90% on how you react to it. So I solved the problem temporarily. I have to go back and figure out what to do, the next steps, but I'm not gonna allow that to break me. For a brief second, it did. It broke me, and now I am here doing a video because it's gonna get my mind off of things, and I've been meaning to do a video for a while. So today is January 26th, 2025. It is 6:03 p.m. 6:03 p.m. Oh, look, the hat. I'm wearing a mental vacation hat. This is kind of what I'm on right now. I'm on a mental vacation because I have no more mentally within me to give up. My mental is shot, but I am here to breathe positivity into the world and breathe positivity within myself so that I can move forward and continue on this glorious path that I am on. Because, like I said, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it, and there you get the whole 100%. And the better you react to the situations that are designed to break you and realize that this is just a test, this is just something that's going to get me off my purpose and make me deviate from that, the quicker you can get back on track and remain on your purpose, right? And not let the little things, the little hiccups or the pipes that burst in your house and flood your bathroom, those things are just things. They're just things that happen. They're not positive things. They're not negative things. They're just things that happen. And then you can realize, okay, it's something that happened. How am I going to react to it? Am I going to have a negative reaction? Am I going to crash out and jump off a bridge? No, I'm going to solve the problem for what I can solve right now and then deal with the rest when I can deal with it. And I'm blessed enough to have 3 bathrooms in my house. So just one bathroom, it's not even a big issue. It's just a sink in the bathroom. I can't use the sink. It's not as bad as, when you going through it and you're in the middle of the situation and you take a step back and be like, oh, hey, this is not really that bad. It's just a thing. So I have wrote down some notes over the last couple days. As you guys know, I do my studying. I do my reading, I watch my videos, and I come up with, I don't know what this is going to be titled. You guys will know before me because you clicked on the video, you see the title. But I'm just going to read pretty much what I wrote and then go over my perspective on it. I may be able to put some biblical references onto it. So I'm gonna read it. I kind of have put some of this stuff on my Instagram. I don't know if you guys are following it, but it's the same as the YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram, you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and yeah, let's get into it. When it comes to being a person rather than the project, I think that we have trouble recognizing the change that occurs in our acceptance of how we are. Right? So there's going to be a constant change in your life and accepting it as it comes and recognizing those small changes lead up to the bigger picture, right? So you need to recognize that every change, every mindset change, every physical change, every change within your being of you as a person leads to the bigger change that you are trying to achieve, right? And when you recognize and accept those small changes, it leads to bigger changes, right? It seems as though as soon as you realize and truly pay attention to the way you transcended the world, you gain possession of its reins, right? To be able to see if you are able to change and influence yourself to your liking and understanding. When we keep our eyes closed or this is what I put on Instagram. When we keep our eyes closed or hyperfixate on the small parts, we lose the beauty within the complete picture. No more of the self is lost than in our insisting on not letting it be found. Right? Many life experiences act as catalysts to our internal experiences and vice versa. When we come into the moment heavily encumbered by our own ego, we fail to ascend to the height of our possibilities. The notion of the self I am coming to realize is something that we too can become preoccupied with. Too much thought on any one thing leaves you thinking of nothing but more thought. The cyclical nature of a mind disengaged with the beauty of the unknown is likely to repeat such a thing which stripes us of our joy. Which means when you think so much on one aspect of life, you're going to miss out on everything else. Right? The best part about being yourself is when being yourself is being able to experience it. So think about what it is. To understand the point of setting certain intentions with who you are, as I believe them to be vital in taking the right steps. But all we do is think about the steps itself, then when will it actually be taken? That's to say, when all you do is think about your next move, when are you going to make that next move? All you're doing is thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, but when are you actually going to do it? Right? I think this is about being present enough to forget that you're walking on a path and just simply enjoy the views around you. Not to say don't be conscious, but don't be preoccupied with the chance of failure that you miss your opportunity to succeed. We experience life more in our own mind than in our actual world that we think of it. So when you're experiencing, you're creating these experiences in your head and not in reality, is not leading you anywhere, pretty much. Giving yourself the grace to having faith and giving yourself grace and having faith in yourself is integral to actually finding yourself in this world. For if we only think about how I wrote this crazy. If we only think about how we fit in, then when will fitting in actually be done? I want to dissect. So let's go over this whole thing, right? I didn't bring no water upstairs. I didn't bring no tea upstairs. I didn't bring anything upstairs. I'm literally just here. I just cleaned my bathroom downstairs because it was leaking. Yeah. Life has an interesting way of humbling you. When you're on these highs and you feel like everything is going good, or you feel like you're on the right path, and then it just throws this random thing at you and says, here, how about now? And it says, here, how about now, right? And it can be any number of things, right? You can feel like you're on the path to like getting the things that you want out of life, or getting back on track, or getting on track in general, right? You may have achieved a major goal that you've been working on, you've been trying to achieve for a while, and you achieved that goal, and then in order to keep achieving that goal, you have to maintain a certain level of accountability a certain level of just a certain level of life. You have to keep up with the lifestyle that you are now a part of. And then something may happen to where it's going to hinder you from continuing on that path, but then you need to find another way to get back on that path or find a detour. So let's say you let's say you lost your job and you get a new job, but in order to go to that job you have to drive to that job, right? And one day randomly you get into a car accident. Now you no longer have access to this car that you was using to drive, right? Maybe your car, whatever car, right? Instead of basking, or not necessarily basking, instead of being affected, so heavily affected on the fact that you don't have a car, you can't get to work now, what you need to do is find the alternate route, which may be getting on the bus. You may need to take 2 buses to get to that job. You may need to get an Uber. You may need to go buy a bike. But you need to stay on that path. If this job is your path, or if this mission, whatever the case may be, is what your life is leading you towards, these little obstacles are just to determine how much you really want it and how much you really deserve it, because everything worth having is worth working for, right? So finding ways to stay on the path and stay on course towards the things that you want and the things that you believe you deserve is the only way you actually fully achieve those things, because life is going to throw millions and millions and millions of obstacles your way. It's going to challenge you. It's going to make you become the best person and earn what it is that you want out of life, right? You need to earn it. Nothing is just going to be handed to you, right? And yes, for some people it is, right? But for the normal person, you can't look at your life and just assume that life is going to be handed to you. The glory of everything that you want is going to be handed to you. You need to work for it. You need to sit down and you need to make sure that your frequency aligns with your desired reality. And as long as that happens, anything in between doesn't really matter. The actions don't really matter. The mind, the thoughts that you have don't really matter, because the frequency is automatically going to realign you back on to the desired reality, and you will achieve the desired reality as long as the frequency aligns with that. That's the bigger picture. So on seeing the bigger picture, I mentioned hyperfixating on the small details, blindness to the beauty of the whole. So we can sit there and we could look so heavy and so deep on the small picture, on the little detail that may seem out of place, and not realize that there's a whole world out there that is perfectly aligned. There's a whole world out there that's perfectly aligned, but we're focusing on the one thing that isn't. We focus on the one thing that just doesn't sit right with our soul. It doesn't sit right with our being and our mentality. It doesn't sit right, and it makes us cringe to a certain degree. And we fixate on that. We hyperfixate on that, and it bugs us. It bothers us, and that distracts us from seeing the bigger picture, from seeing all the good things that are actually going on in your life, in your universe, that is perfect for your frequency and where you're trying to go. Right? Those things are called distractions. And we have to limit our distractions. We have to focus on the positive and increase our attention span on the positive, right? Because it's so hard to focus on the positive. The positive side of things sometimes can be boring, right? When things are aligning, you feel bored. So you do something that crashes out. It seems exciting. It seems risky, daring, and it gives you that adrenaline rush, because now you're focused. Now it's something that you can say, it's like, I may fail at this. I may fail at this, right? And as you're doing it, you have this thing in your mind where it's like, this is exciting because I don't know what's going to happen. And albeit it may turn out right, but instead of focusing on the bigger picture of everything that's going right, you need to put yourself in a place to fail. And we need to kind of deviate from that and see the bigger picture. Paradoxically, I can't say the word. Paradoxically, the more we resist discovering ourselves, the more we lose who we are becoming. No, I said that wrong. The more we resist discovering ourselves, the more lost we become. Right? That's a better way to explain it. So the things that you're doing, the things that you want in life are going to align, right? And you need to discover yourself. You need to figure out who you are and what really aligns with the lifestyle that you want. And then everything else will fall into place. But a lot of people resist discovering themselves and resist breaking their own hearts to figure out, okay, why am I a liar? Why am I mean to people? Why am I this? Why am I an asshole? Why can't I keep a job? Why am I alcoholic? Why do I smoke? Why do I have an addiction to porn? Like the things that you do and why you do what you do, you need to really break down those things and figure out the root cause of it, so then you can break it down, because you can't move on if you don't know the root cause. You can break down, you can put things down and put it aside, but it's always going to be on your back, right? And then it's going to weigh you down while you're on your journey. And you're going to end up more lost because you haven't really dissected the truth of why you are where you are. And this is why I believe that everyone should have therapy. Everyone should go to therapy. And everyone should go on this journey of self-discovery, right? Life experience and inner growth are interconnected. External events often trigger internal transformation and vice versa, right? So the things that you go through in your reality are catalysts for the things that you think of in your mind, which is not necessarily reality, because you can think of the worst situations and it won't necessarily really be that in reality. But the more you think about it, the more you bring it to fruition, right? So as you're going on the path, you need to accept change and recognize the self. Recognize yourself at every step, because you don't want to go through life changing and not really recognizing each step, and then 5 years down the line, 10 days down the line, 21 days, takes 21 days to create a habit, 21 days to break a habit, and then you sit back and you realize, damn, I'm not the same person anymore. You need to realize that at every step, every day. You need to sit back at the end of the day and realize, okay, how did I grow? How did I take steps back? How am I gonna recover from these non-forward progress making moves? How am I going to take a step back in order to take some steps forward? Right? Just because you take some steps back or you revert back to an old habit that you had that wasn't conducive to your desired reality doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. It means that when you wake up tomorrow, you have a better understanding of how to go forward, and you have another chance to go forward. In order to go forward, you need to understand that each step is ordered, right? You can't take 2 right foot steps in a row, because then the left foot is going to have a harder time and you're going to be off balance, right? So each step has to be ordered. In order for one to move, the other one needs to move with it or right after it. And then, this is how you make forward progress. If you're making too many left foot steps in a row, when you go to make that right step, you're going to be off balance and you're going to fall. And then you're going to have to start all over, right? I hope this makes sense to you guys. I hope it's making sense. Yeah, we treat ourselves as projects to fix instead of people to understand. We struggle to accept who we truly are. So what that means is basically, when you're sitting there saying, when you're sitting there like judging yourself and being harsh on yourself, yes, you need to do that in order to move forward. But then you also need to acknowledge who you are in order to become who you want to be. You need to acknowledge your flaws, right? And you need to understand that, yes, you may be a project, but you also need to be understood, right? If you don't understand the project is going to come out wrong, right? They might tell you to a project, you may have a science project to create a volcano or whatever the case may be. But if you don't understand the steps, you're not going to create a volcano, you may create a tsunami, right? And they're both disastrous. They're both, whatever the case may be, but it's not what you were meant to do. And that's to say, what is that to say? I don't know. I don't know what that's to say right now. That's to say, give me a second to think. I'm at a loss for this one. Awareness allows us to shape ourselves internally rather than being stuck on autopilot, right? So having this awareness of what you're doing, the actual moves that you're doing, instead of just being on autopilot, thinking, or not necessarily thinking, but just doing things because you have to, not realizing that everything that you do leads to something, right? Once we start paying attention to how we interact and influence the world, we gain control over our journey. Once we start paying attention to how we interact with and influence the world, we gain control over our journey. And the world, in this particular instance, isn't the broad, grand scheme of things. The world is just yourself. How you interact and influence yourself is when you gain control over your journey. Because the journey involves you, and you are the main part of the journey, you are the protagonist, the antagonist, and the narrator, the author, you're just everything, right? You need to understand you on a deeper level to then understand how the journey affects you, or how the journey, well, yeah, that is it, how the journey affects you. And the more you understand how the journey affects you, the more control you have over the journey. Yeah, the more you have over the journey. And that lends its hand to your ego at some point, because you may feel like you're doing more or less than what you are truly doing, and then that leads you to do more or less than what is needed to complete the task, right? If you feel like you're doing more or giving more than you should, you will stop doing so much and do less. And if you think you're doing less, you will do more, and you maybe do more than is needed, and it may, you put too much pressure on something, it'll break. You put not enough pressure on it, it won't move the way it needs to move. So when we approach life over attached to our ego or rigid ideas of self, we limit our potential. And that goes either way, right? It can be over attached to the idea of doing too much, or over attached to the idea of doing too little, right? The self, while important, can be another source of preoccupation. Overthinking who we are takes us out of the experience of simply being. So that means break yourself down and understand yourself exactly where you are, not overly or underly. Don't overthink yourself, don't underthink yourself, but think yourself exactly who you are. He who thinketh, as a man thinketh. I have that book downstairs, and I need to reread it and break that down at another time. This mental cycle overthinking creates distance from the joy found in embracing the unknown and living in the present. Right? So be who you are in the present and take your growth for your growth, take your downfalls for your downfalls, but enjoy it completely either way. Right? And don't be realistic. It's setting realistic goals for yourself and being realistic with yourself to have better balance and intention. The more realistic you are, the better you can balance and have intention. While setting goals and intentions is essential for growth, obsessing over them can hinder your progress. Again, that goes back to the previous statement of the overthinking. When you overthink the self, you overthink the universe, is going to stop you from creating the progress that you need to create to actually get to where you need to be. Right? True presence means sometimes forgetting you're on a path and enjoying the journey, the scenery, and the moment. Right? It's not just to be so gun-ho on achieving. You need that peace, and you need to not be so hard on yourself, right? And you need to enjoy life. Take the downfalls for the downfalls, and take the big steps as the big steps, and enjoy life fully. And don't let yourself be so destroyed or so fixated on the journey that you forget to enjoy the process. Or don't get yourself so hard on the outcome or the achievement that you forget to enjoy the process of the achievement, right? And hating the process means you're not going to enjoy the final product, right? If, like, say me, I'm in school. If I hate school the whole way, I hate school, I hate these assignments, I hate everything about it. When it comes time for me to walk across that stage and get my diploma, my degree, I'm not going to appreciate it. I'm going to look at it as just a piece of paper because I suffered through the process to get it, instead of enjoying the process and living and enjoying the outcome as well. Success requires caution, awareness, but too much fear of failure robs us of opportunity to succeed. Right? So you need to move in grace and have self-trust. Trust that you're going to get to where you need to get, because everything happens for a reason, and where you are is just part of the process. Like, everything to the minute details. And not to say to focus on the minute details, but when you want to sit down and break down the minute details to why you are where you are, it's just part of the process. What are you going to do? How are you going to take those and move forward with them? Right? The key is to trust the process, realizing that life is as much about experiencing it fully as it is about understanding it. Right? You're on a journey to understand who you are, but you need to trust the process and enjoy the information that you get, even though that information may be something that hurts you, right? All new information isn't good information, right? You may find out something about yourself that you never realized, and then I tell people to break their own hearts. You have to break your own heart and be honest with yourself about who you are and what you're capable of, because the dreams that you have, you may physically, mentally, and spiritually may not be able to achieve them, right? And once you realize that you just physically can't do it, mentally can't do it, and spiritually can't do it, then you need to reevaluate and come up with better goals, or come up with smaller goals until your mind, body, and spirit aligns with the outcome that you want, right? Your goal may be to, I don't know, something. Your goal may be to, let's say on a physical aspect, your goal may be to bench 500 pounds, right? But you struggle curling 50 pounds, right? So as of right now, you're not capable of it. So now you need to figure out what it's going to take for you to get to that stage, right? You're going to have to get on a diet. You have to go to the gym. You have to constantly build up that muscle to where then you can lift the 500 pounds you want to lift, right? Spiritually, you may want to connect with God, but you haven't gone down that path yet. You've never read the Bible. You've never had spiritual conversations with a pastor or anything like that. In order to get there, you need to discover self and discover, read the Bible and not just read the Bible, but understand it, break it down, and how does it align with things that you have going on in your life, and then maybe you can discover the spiritual side of what it's trying to convey. Mentally, you may want to have better thoughts and have a better thinking process and be able to understand things, but if you haven't done it, you can't do it. So then you have to exercise those muscles until you can do it. If you want to be a cook, you need to cook, right? You can't be what you haven't been. It's just that simple, and it's all about enjoying the process until you achieve the goal. I feel like this video has been all over the place. I feel like there's little bits and pieces that connect, but overall I feel like it's been all over the place, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it being all over the place for several reasons. Mainly because, again, I do these videos for me, and if people watch it and take something from it, that's dope. But if they don't, that's cool too. Because this is part of me enjoying the journey, right? I enjoy doing these videos. I enjoy having these conversations, and sometimes I trigger my own self to think about something a different way based on what I wrote, and then what I read, and then reading it out loud triggers a different aspect of it. So then I convey it on camera, and then when I watch it back, I come up with a reason as to why I had contrary thoughts between writing it and reading it, right? Because I can write something down and then read it out loud, and then I won't agree with what I wrote. And it's also because I do my research like days in advance, right? I'm growing as a person every single day, so I may have one belief one day, but then 5 days later I may not necessarily agree with that. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with new information changing your mind, or you having different thought processes. That's actually a sign of growth, right? You don't need to be so stone on your beliefs or your beliefs. I don't know why I always do that. I always say and there's only really one example. You don't need to be so stone on your beliefs, right? You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to change your outlook on life, right? You are allowed to take in new information and have it change your outward projection, right? Change the reality. And with that being said, I think I'm going to end this video here. I want to read these kind of, yeah. Now we see things imperfectly, like puzzling reflections in the mirror. But then we will see everything with perfect clarity. All that I know now is partial and incomplete, but then I know now everything completely, just as God now knows me completely. 1 Corinthians 13.